This is the story of Natasha Flug Presley, 30, and her friends Jasmine Stern, 30, and Matthew Pettis, 26, who was Jasmine Stern's brother, and Lois Foreman III, 35, who was Jasmine Stern's boyfriend.
Were found dead in Wisconsin. On Sunday, Dunn County deputies found the bodies of Matthew Pettis, Jasmine Sturm, Natasha Flug Presley, and Lois Foreman III. All four are Minnesotans. They were shot and left inside an SUV parked in a cornfield. Prosecutors have now charged Darren Osborne with hiding the bodies. Police arrested him on Wednesday night in St. Paul. This evening, we learned Antoine Suggs turned himself in to police in Arizona. Investigators say that Suggs left his driver's license inside the abandoned SUV and may have had a relationship with one of the victims. Suggs will be sent back to Wisconsin.
Welcome to True Crimes with Ebony. Subscribe for more stories. This story takes place in St. Paul, Minnesota, home of the 10,000 Lakes and home to the biggest mall in the U.S., Mall of America. On the night of September 12, 2021, a night of fun with four friends that turned deadly. The four friends were seen outside of a bar getting into a black Mercedes SUV belonging to this man, Anton Suggs, who Natasha allegedly dated at the time. Shortly after, they left the bar with Anton Suggs. According to reports, around 3 a.m. that morning, he shot all four victims in the head, ending their lives. According to reports, he drove around for hours with the victims' bodies in the car. Around 5 a.m., he showed up to his dad's house, this man, Darren Osborne. According to reports, he asked his dad to help him dispose of the bodies. So his dad trailed behind him in a separate car, stopping at a few gas stations along the way, until they reached a cornfield in Wisconsin.
St. Paul police announced the four victims found dead in a Mercedes SUV in a remote Wisconsin cornfield were killed in St. Paul before a 70-mile road trip to dump the bodies. And a newly filed search warrant reveals how police have been piecing together the crime. So far, 56-year-old Darren Osborne and his 38-year-old son Antoine Suggs are charged with the crime of hiding a corpse. No one is charged with murder yet, but police say there are no other suspects. The search warrant reveals a cigarette butt, now being tested for DNA, was found in the cornfield by the SUV, and shell casings were found inside the vehicle. Also in the Mercedes was the Arizona photo ID belonging to Antoine Suggs. Police got a tip that the suspects were spotted at the Bridge Stop gas station in Wheeler, Wisconsin, just 2 hours before the SUV was found in the cornfield. According to the search warrant, the gas station surveillance video shows Suggs in the Mercedes and Osborne in a different SUV. Police found blood there they believe dripped from the Mercedes. Another camera, this one a Menominee Police Squad camera, happened to capture the Mercedes in an empty lot an hour before that, while pulling over someone else. When police went back to that lot, they found blood drops there too. Yet another camera, hours earlier near the White Squirrel Bar in St. Paul, where the warrant says Suggs was drinking with the victims, shows at least one of the victims getting into the Mercedes. When police moved in on Osborne, the older suspect, the warrant says he admitted following his son Antoine, who was driving the Mercedes, to rural Wisconsin and giving him a ride back to St. Paul, although Osborne claims he never saw bodies in that vehicle. Police have also tied the vehicle to Antoine Suggs. According to the search warrant, a car lot owned by friends of his family sold it to him just 2 days before the murders. Suggs is currently held in an Arizona jail. Again, so far, the only criminal charges that have been filed so far are in Wisconsin for that crime of hiding a corpse. And Randy, so far in this court paperwork that I've looked through, no sign of a motive.
Right after they ditched the bodies, Anton Suggs' father drove him back to Minnesota, where he dropped his son off in Minneapolis. Around 2 p.m. that day, a farm worker discovered the SUV with the bodies inside and called authorities. On September 15, 2021, Darren Osborne was arrested and charged and later pled guilty to aiding his son in the crime. They sentenced him to 5 years in prison. On September 17, 2021, Anton Suggs turned himself in Arizona, where he was living at the time and where he fled to after the crime. Shortly after, he was indicted back to Minnesota, where he was charged with the killings. In March of 2023, the trial began. During the trial, he took the stand and admitted to shooting the victims, but he said it was in self-defense.
Man accused of killing 4 people and leaving their bodies inside an SUV in a Wisconsin cornfield. Antoine Suggs faces 4 counts of second-degree murder, and today he took the stand. Charmaine Nero was in the courtroom.
The courtroom was packed with family members as the defendant took the stand today. Many of those family members getting emotional and walking out of the courtroom during that testimony. Inside the Ramsey County Courthouse today, the man charged for the murder of 4 St. Paul friends took the stand. Natasha Lee Flug Presley, Matthew Pettis, Lois Foreman III, and Jasmine Sturm were all found shot dead inside an abandoned SUV in a Wisconsin cornfield back in September of 2021.
Outgoing. She had a laugh that would just make you laugh.
My son was an amazing artist. He was a great father. He was a music producer.
Presley's father, Damone, and Foreman's mother, Jessica, embraced outside the courtroom during a break after hearing the defendant's testimony.
To relive my daughter's last moment of her life and to be here, it's just unsurreal.
Suggs told the courtroom he recently met the 4 victims during his trip back to visit his children in Minnesota from Arizona, where he lived. The defendant arguing he thought he was going to be robbed and felt threatened at the time of the shooting. Video showing the moment shots were fired inside the moving car forced some family members to walk out of the courtroom.
But to hear and actually see my daughter's last day of her life and what took place was really hard to sit there.
Exhausting. I never expected it would take such an emotional toll to sit and have to see and hear such graphic detail.
Suggs pled not guilty and is charged with 4 counts of second-degree murder. His father pled guilty last year to helping Suggs hide the bodies and is currently serving a 4-year sentence. According to a complaint, Suggs told his father he snapped and shot a couple of people.
Just heartbroken, you know. My daughter and her friends just out having a good time and ends up a tragedy.
Closing arguments are expected to start tomorrow morning. If convicted, the defendant could face up to 160 years in prison. Reporting in St. Paul, Charmaine.
The jury didn't buy his claims, and on March 31st, 2023, he was found guilty of killing all 4 victims. And shortly thereafter, the judge sentenced him to 100+ years for the murders,
leaving the bodies in a car in a rural Wisconsin cornfield.
And Suggs maintaining to the very end that he opened fire in self-defense. But as Paul Bloom tells us, the jury didn't buy it, and neither did a Ramsey County judge.
This was an intense culmination to a tragic case, a quadruple homicide that shattered multiple families, rocked the city of St. Paul and communities far beyond. Of course, 4 families shattered. The judge Monday getting a chance to sentence this convicted killer, giving him potentially the opportunity at freedom someday, or to sentence him basically to the rest of his life behind bars.
I ask myself why the defendant did this. Why did this happen? How could he take 4 beautiful lives in such a tragic way?
One by one, loved ones for the 4 murdered victims shared their anguish with the court. Sentencing coming a day after a painful Mother's Day for the families. The 4 victims, Jasmine Sturm, Matthew Pettis, Lois Foreman III, and Natasha Lee Flug Presley, left behind 7 children between them. All of this group united in asking Ramsey County District Court Judge Japal Harris to sentence the gunman, Antoine Suggs, to the maximum.
Now is the time for the defendant to pay his consequences. I beg your honor to give him the maximum penalty for his crimes.
My intentions were not to kill, but only to protect my life that was in danger.
Suggs admitted he shot and killed a group of 4 close friends and family members in a Mercedes he had borrowed following a night of drinking and socializing at a St. Paul pub. But he insists he only fired in self-defense when the group pulled a gun and tried to rob him. Judge Harris, though, wasn't buying it, ultimately sentencing Suggs to more than 25 years for each victim, to be served consecutively, totaling more than 103 years behind bars, ensuring that Suggs never gets another chance at freedom.
Make no mistakes, you caused their deaths. You pulled the triggers. You put them in their graves, and for that reason, you will serve this time.
In downtown St. Paul, Paul Bloom, Fox.
My hearts go out to the family and friends of the 4 victims. They left behind 7 kids between the 4 of them. May they rest in peace. Thank you for watching True Crimes with Ebony. Until next time, stay safe out there.